Hello, so as it says, my name is Chris Gearing. I'm an engineer at Whamcloud. You'll see my synopsis actually talked about Whamcloud test and validation tools. And as I came around to write that, I realized that to talk about test and validation, you have to talk about quality. So the title is actually Whamcloud Quality. And as part of my agenda, I want to talk about Whamcloud and community-wide quality, a repeatable landing process, scalable quality community tools, and at the end just talk about how you can help. So let me start by actually quoting Whamcloud CEO Brent Gorder. He said that Whamcloud is leading the charge to raise the quality bar for Lustre to equal the best of file systems in the world. And I want to just try today to just show one example, one area where Whamcloud is going to achieve that. So last year at LUG, Eric Barton spoke about the foundation stone of features and performance being stability. And since the first day of Whamcloud's existence, we've been driving that plan to make Lustre as stable as possible. And in fact, Whamcloud's base value is that Lustre must be a stable product. Eric's presentations showed a slide which had the pyramid now on the screen. And what he was saying was that features and performance are based on stability. Now, since last year, there's been work forever to bring about stability to Lustre and increase the stability of Lustre to enable features and performance. Now, I'd like to add a foundation to that, which is that to have features, performance, and stability, you must have quality. You have to have quality throughout the organization, and quality is like a chain, so it's only as good as its weakest link. Now, Whamcloud is doing this. We really are creating a quality organization to ensure that Lustre can be the stable product that it needs to be. So let me say again that Whamcloud is investing money, time, and expertise in quality. And this means that not only have we recruited some of the best in the Lustre business, but we're using some of them to raise the quality of Lustre by the development of scalable quality tools to enable us to build those tools. Because we realize that to reap the benefits of quality, you have to invest in quality. And this means that the tools that we develop will be developed for the long term to enhance the whole Lustre community. The tools we're developing will have a life equal to that of Lustre. We are developing tools to enhance the Lustre community. Now, Whamcloud's not claiming for a second that it's inventing quality. In fact, quite the opposite. We're using well-founded and widely used agile development techniques such as Scrum to aid the Lustre development process. And more importantly, we are a quality company in everything that we do, not just in the easy bits and not just in the bits that people see. The whole of our engineering organization is orientating itself around quality principles. So having given you an insight into our view on quality, let me talk about one of the many things that we're doing to improve quality. And my example is the creation of a repeatable landing process. To improve the quality of any product, the number one requirement is that you have control over the process that builds that product. Because to improve any process, you have to have control over the process. Now, a key point in time for Lustre is the patch landing process. This might be the first time that the Lustre team knows anything about the code that has been produced. To drive quality, we need to ensure that the landing process is absolutely rigorous and in its approach, and that for any patch accepted into the code, we need to guarantee that each step of the acceptance process is applied in a way that allows for minimal deviation. In the past, Lustre reached its defined standards with a series of reviews, tests, and controlled upgrades to the source base. Because Whamcloud wants to lift the quality of Lustre even higher than today and allow for new features to be developed first time, Whamcloud has made this process even more rigorous. So Whamcloud has created a more rigorous, repeatable landing process from patch submission to patch acceptance. And a repeatable landing process is exactly what it says. That is a process where variation is not possible, where every step can be audited at any time after the event. It really is that simple. The historic landing process allowed flexibility, and I'll show you how it worked on the next slide. Developers liked this flexibility because the landing process allowed minor tweaks to be made as the process progressed. However, because of the flexibility, in the case of test escapes, it was very difficult to review accurately what had happened. And the ability to review a process in the event of failure is the key to improving that process. The intention is that by using an even more stringent landing process than previously possible, we will separate the landing process from the development process, and therefore we can increase the quality of patches being presented for landing. And this means that we can use the new landing process to push quality further forward in the development cycle. Now, pushing quality forwards in any process is the key to success. I'm talking today about a process at the end of the cycle, in that I'm talking about test and validation. But that's not because we believe that quality happens at the end, but because we know that to improve process, you have to pull quality through the system. In a quality system, the quality runs throughout the process, and quality is not just applied at the end. So, let me just contrast the historical landing process with the improved landing process that Whamcloud's using today. Now, here's our historical happy developer with his source code ready for submission. He presents the code for review, and he gets some results back. Now, even if the patch is accepted, the reality is there's probably some suggestions for improvement. And that whilst the developer knows that he should not change the patch before test, he doesn't really want to change it and put it for review and use everyone's time, and he probably discusses the change with everybody. And so there are sometimes minor changes before test. Now, the process did lay out that the patch submitted for review must be the same as for test. But the problem is that changes could occur, and that means that when you audit the process, there is some area of ambiguity. So anyway, our coffee-laden developer now presents the patch for test. He then waits around a day or two waiting for the test to finish. And although the test passes, again, he notices some improvements that could be made. Maybe some logging is left in output, or or a tiny performance enhancement. And so he takes the opportunity just to make a minor tweak. And again, he knows he shouldn't do that. He knows the process doesn't allow it, but it's too good an opportunity to take. And again, the problem is that when the system fails, because there is the opportunity for this change, you can't audit the process without there being some ambiguity as to what happened. Anyway, our tired developer takes the results of the reviews and tests and then sends the patch with those results to be accepted into the code. And at this point, obviously, he sets off to the bar. Now, the limitation of this process is that whilst in almost every case the patch accepted for inclusion into the source was the same as the patch reviewed and tested, it cannot be guaranteed, and that limits your ability to review what happened. Now, there's no worries about the quality of Lustre today, and I know everyone here is pro Lustre. I mean, I think that that Lustre's probably like the fuel gauge in your car. It's it's reliable and accurate, and it does what you want. But we want to make it like the fuel gauge in your aeroplane, which is something you put your life on. So, it's the old process was good. We're just creating something that notches it up a level. So let's look at the process that Whamcloud has put into place. Firstly, you'll notice it's simpler. It requires less work for the developer and actually allows him to get his beer sooner. The developer simply pushes his patch into the landing process at the start, and then the fully automated system causes the patch to be tested, reviewed, and accepted without any input from the developer. Now, this ease of use does, of course, mean that the developer can't steer the process or make minor course corrections as the process proceeds. This means that to pass all the testing and review, the quality of input must be higher than previously required. The developers need to be putting gold standard code into the system. They can't tweak it as it goes along. Now, to enable the developer to be sure that his patch is going to be of the standard required, we're going to enable that along with the patch and design materials required today, the developer can submit the results of his own testing into the process. This means the developer can test privately until he is happy with the patch, and then kick off the landing process. We will even make it so that the code used by the developer for testing is auditable, meaning that the developer's own testing can create value. But truthfully, the greatest improvement over the old process is that when an issue escapes into production code, out into the world, we can unambiguously audit the path of the issue through the acceptance process, and we can review our performance, we can understand what failed, and then in a controlled manner we can improve the performance. Now, by having more and more guaranteed and auditable steps, we're paving the way for a continuous improvement of the Lustre development process. So, before I run out of time, let me move on to talk about some of the community tools that Whamcloud is using in this process. And these are the test and validation tools. The boxes above the people, the happy people, represent the toolkit that Whamcloud has put into place to support the needs of the Lustre landing process. On the following slides, I will look into each of these three boxes in detail. And just before I go any further, I want to be clear that the middle box today is internal to Whamcloud. We will eventually release it for wider use, but that isn't the case today. So, looking at the first box, which consists of existing tools. These aren't Whamcloud specific tools, but they are tools that we're using for the Lustre 2.1 release. Jira is Whamcloud's issue and agile management tool. It's a replacement for Bugzilla and is being used because it offers the ability to manage development as well as track its progress. In fact, Whamcloud's agile Scrum development activities are being managed by Jira. Now, Jenkins is a build tool that continuously builds mainstream branches and all patches submitted by the community. Using a continuous integration tool like this means that the Lustre source never contains first order bugs. That is, bugs that stop the build. Whenever a patch is submitted, the first thing to test is that the patch will build, and Jenkins does this for every submission on every branch every time. Finally, looking at Gerrit is a code review tool that allows the whole community to be part of the code review process. The key ingredients of Gerrit are that to pass the review, the code must be buildable, it must have successfully passed automated test, and it must have been reviewed by 2 peers. And those 2 peers can be distributed globally, and they can be part of any organization. Code review is one of... Sorry, my Android has just played up. Now, code review is one of the best tools for reducing issue counts, and Gerrit allows us to maximize that return. Now, these tools are live. There's actually the URLs on the side. They're live on the internet today, and if you want to go and see what Whamcloud's doing and see how Whamcloud's doing that, then you can connect, you can register for any of them, and you can make use of these tools. So now moving to the middle box, which is Casco. Now, Casco is a validation tool, is a server that allows anybody to automatically test builds on Lustre clusters. Developers can request pre-landing sessions using Casco so that their landings are of a higher quality and land with the all-important test collateral. We can think of Casco as the equivalent of WCL, because when a developer's build has passed through the Casco service, you know that a bar of quality has been met. Now, once a patch is landed, Casco enables the landing to be automatically tested prior to review. And because we know that the developers carried out testing before submission, we can confidently engage significant resources to carry out further testing before review. I mean, what we're doing is trying to systematically invest more and more time and money at each checkpoint as the patch approaches production code. And our intention is that Casco will run on many clusters and allow automated testing on your cluster. Because our intention is that for people without existing test infrastructure, or for people who only test occasionally, Casco can become the easy to install and easy to use Lustre test option, which produces results of a known quality. Now, as I said at the beginning, Casco is internal to Whamcloud today, but we do plan to release it to the Lustre community in the future. Now, moving to the third box. Am I on the third box? I am. Moving to the third box is a piece of infrastructure that Whamcloud has already created and is already using for the Lustre 2.1 release. It's called Maloo and is the authoritative community results database. It's a community resource in that anyone can store their results on Whamcloud's Maloo, and people are. We have third parties pushing results onto our Maloo. This means that when you test, you can upload your results to Whamcloud's Maloo and enable everyone to benefit from your testing. Anyone can also set up their own Maloo instance and store their results on it, or you could enable others to store their results on it too. And Maloo will soon support the ability to move results between Maloos, if there's a plural of Maloo, so that you can carry out your testing, and then when you get significant results, you can give them to other people so that they can use them in their processes. Finally, the results from Maloo, from any Maloo on the internet, can be used as landing collateral. If you want to have your own Maloo database and you want to submit patches with results from that database, then that's fine. All that we require, of course, is that your Maloo is open to the internet. So, you can view Maloo now at maloo.whamcloud.com. But to give you a quick idea of what Maloo's capable of, I've got some screenshots on the screen. The front screen of Maloo constantly provides a visual indicator of the state of testing, and we use simple colors of red, green, and amber so that we can see. We really can just look at it and see the state. Now, as 2.1 testing goes ahead, we'd expect this screen to go more and more green, and when there's a red one, a red result, it will immediately draw the attention of the Whamcloud test team, and they can look into and work out what went wrong. And we're going to enhance this dashboard in the future so that we can see not only trends in bug count, but also trends in things like performance. Now, when a test fails, you just click on the failing test, and an issue is raised in the Jira tracker. The issue is automatically created with the test failure information filled in, including a link back to the test results. On the screen now, you can see the data in the data entry form. There's no need to log into Jira. The basic information is presented for you, and all you have to do as a user is to add in any helpful information that you may have. Now, of course, when you do automated testing, you repeatedly find the same results, or possibly the re-emergence you repeatedly find the same bugs, or possibly the re-emergence of old bugs. Now, what Maloo does is that when it sees an error, it searches Jira and it searches Bugzilla, and it attempts to match the failure that it's found with existing bugs. And this is a zoom on the top right of the screen. And as you can see, these entries were discovered by the system. They weren't entered. The blue links are things where it searched the database and presented the link for you. So you can easily see, when generally, if the bug that's been found or the issue that's been found is an existing issue that is known about. So finally, looking just once more at Maloo, it obviously has a fully functioning search, which allows you, to select by any reasonable criteria. So if you want to go and look at the results of testing on Red Hat 6, on x86-64 with on InfiniBand, then you can go to Maloo, you can do that search, and you can see the state. Now, it's only just the beginning for Maloo. Go back one. It's only just the beginning for Maloo, and we will extend it to include performance regression testing, process control, and also extend it to allow us to do to do automatic test script creation so that we can drive test clusters more efficiently. So anyway, how does all this fit together? Well, as you can see, we have 3 examples on the screen of inputs to the system. There's Jenkins, which is which I spoke about earlier, which provides input in the form of repositories. There's a developer possibly building RPMs, or there's any other continuous integration server which may provide a repository. Now in the middle there's Casco. Now Casco will, depending on the configuration, either fully automatically test the build or manually test the build on a cluster. Now the tool will work with multiple clusters, so we can send different builds off to different clusters. And as an example of what I mean by manually test on a cluster, there are clusters like Hyperion that it can't access. So what it will do is it will create a JIRA, which is a request for the testing to take place. Somebody will receive that JIRA, they'll do the testing, and then they'll post the results back. Now this automated manual testing allows the work to flow seamlessly and reliably, and allows us to maximize the use of test resources within the community. Now the Casco tool is only being used within Whamcloud, but we will at some point release a version for wider use. And a lot of work is going to go into making it as versatile as possible so that as many clusters as possible can be supported. Now once testing is complete, the results are uploaded to your Maloo or Whamcloud's Maloo, or if you're a developer, you can just have the results posted back to you so that you can use the automated and controlled process environment privately to yourself. You don't have to do everything in the glare of publicity. So lastly, I'd just like to summarize the kind of end-to-end Whamcloud process that we're using at the moment. So at the start of any change to the code, a JIRA change request is raised, and this will be a request for a new feature or a description of a bug that needs fixing. Then the developers carry out the work, and at Whamcloud we use Scrum process managed by JIRA. The developer tests with Casco, with the results going to Maloo. The developer then lands the patch using Gerrit. Casco automatically tests the Jenkins build, and the test results are then posted to Maloo. The peers review the change, including the test results using Gerrit, and then finally the patch is loaded, the patch is landed and ready for full integration testing. And then finally, as I said, I'd just like to discuss how you can help. Now, as always with an open source product, Lustre needs contributors to successfully help development. But if you don't have the time, and because of the way Gerrit works, you can sign up to be a code reviewer and help with the review process, which is very important. But with Lustre 2.1 probably being very stable by now, perhaps the thing that Lustre needs most is your help in testing. And if you test, then you can add your results to the Maloo and increase the knowledge we have about this product. So if you can help, please contact Whamcloud, and if you need a contact point, then you can contact me, chris@whamcloud.com. So just in summary, what I hope I've told you about today, or given you some insights into, is Whamcloud's view on quality, is an insight into the landing process that we're using, some of the tools that we're building and using to do that, and finally, just as always, can you help us, because it's a big process. So thank you very much. And any questions? Oh, no question.
Hi, I have 2 questions. One is, how long does Casco automatic validation take?
It depends on the testing. I mean, on a review, we probably run fairly minimal testing on one distribution against one client.
But if I submit a bug fix or a feature.
So when the review comes, so the developer runs testing. When a review comes in, we probably spend 5 or 6 hours on a cluster doing initial testing before review, and then if that passes and the code gets reviewed, then there's another test process which is multiple patches, which probably is probably actually a 2-week cycle of cluster time before we can go around the whole loop. Because at that point we have to do all distributions against all distributions and, you know, different networks, etc.
And if I believe you said that if someone submits a patch, it just takes 2 other reviewers in the community to accept that patch.
It just takes.
In other words, I think
They're not random people.
Okay.
So we.
Well, it sounded like everyone in this room is the part of the community. That's why I didn't know.
Well,
how
you can. I mean, you know, I guess. I mean, at the moment, we don't have any external reviewers, and I guess when we get people coming forward, we'll put something into play before we use them. But let's be honest. I think that deciding, you know, auditing the people who come forward to see if they've got the qualifications for review will be a nice problem for us to have.
Yeah, just a quick comment. You need 1+2 review before it will actually land in the repository, and only a select number of people can have a +2 review, right? Those are the senior Lustre engineers. So anybody can give a +1 review, but before it can actually be committed into the Git repository, it needs a +2, in addition to at least another +1 and successful test and build results.
There's the right answer.
So I just had a quick question about the import of third-party Malus. So do you guys import data from that? If I use that as my landing criteria or collateral, or do you pull that into your own Malu? And if you don't, how do you handle when Congress decides, yeah, we're done and we're going to pull the funding for your Malu server and mine goes away? How do you maintain auditability in that case?
That's very good. It's a very good point, and I have to say, not something we've entirely captured, I guess.
I just wanted to ask, who are the special people with +2 abilities?
Sounds very Dungeons and Dragons.
Hands up the +2s.
It's. I mean, I don't know the exhaustive list. It's not just me. You know, Robert, Oleg, myself. I'm trying to think. Probably Eric. Who? Joanne. You know, I mean, a number of the senior people, right? You know, I think it's not like a closely guarded secret or anything. I just don't know who everybody is.
You talked about performance testing. Have you given that much thought? How you plan to? We'll go ahead.
It's the next step. I mean, we do the tests. The tests do return. The Lustre test scripts do return performance figures, and so I think the next stage is to capture those, and then we can display those over time. I mean, our first step will be to capture the figures that the test scripts already capture. I mean, over time, one thing we want to do as we get really good control over this process is to extend the abilities of the test scripts, and so some more stuff will come out of that. But at the moment, there's a lot of there's a lot of performance figures in the test scripts that that whiz by on a console. So we will go about capturing those first, and then on the same configuration that we can just be sure that we're not. That over time the performance isn't creeping away, which can happen, and then you suddenly everyone panics because you've lost 10% of the performance and nobody was sure when.
How do you handle changes, more fundamental changes to the architecture that are maybe more widespread and it's not isolated to one particular area? Are you planning on having separate branches and doing automated testing, even though it's going to fail a whole lot of different test cases? You can still get a handle on that you're going in the right direction and starting to pass some of the test cases you care about for those more radical changes.
To be honest, I'm not sure that I'm the person. I mean, I think that's more about how we go about doing those developments rather than the test development. I'm not the person.
Okay.
Ask. I'm not the person to ask about that.
So I was interested in your testing, sort of community testing notion, and I would imagine that certain tests are more valuable than others that you'd like. And so to sort of vision I don't know, an N matrix where you've got different factors you'd like to test and you'd like people to kind of fill in the holes. Do you have that? Is that some kind of a, where where people, you'd like to have people test and then you can encourage them to test in that direction versus accepting tests that maybe have, more duplicate of other tests and adding lesser value?
There's definitely opportunity, and to be honest, one of the, we haven't had enough. I don't know what the total numbers of offers of testing that we've had, but one thing, if people come forward, I think the best way is if people come forwards with clusters, then then we will get engineers to say that that cluster would be really good for testing these features. I think it's probably, maybe we can do something more systematic. But at the moment, if people say, here's a cluster, we want you to test 2.1 on it, we won't just randomly test, all the. We will try and focus on the bits that are useful for that cluster, and we'd like to be doing that. We just need the clusters.
You said you're going to open it up at some point in the future. Can you give us an idea of when that is?
You'd probably be best to ask Brent.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of factors behind that. I mean, there's technical and other factors, I think, behind that.
And then the other question was, you said, is Maloo already open?
We haven't actually released it. I mean, Maloo is on the web, and we haven't actually released it. But I think it's less. I mean, I ought to be careful. I think I don't want to step on anyone's toes there. To be honest.